All right, Pete. Pete is highlighting in our rundown right now. It is now time to go to the traits of some of these quarterbacks, because before we get to the homies and pushing back on some of your rankings, because I think that's good. You know, it's like, does it stand up to the rigors of the questioning from the homies?
Sure.
Right? Your 2023 rankings. But let's go through and kind of get a better idea of what you think each of these 2023 quarterbacks does well. Who's the best at each of these traits?
I think it's a good exercise. I like this.
This is a good exercise to kind of pin down exactly what these guys do well and what they might not do well. So let's start with accuracy.
Right.
And that's always a big thing. You hear the debates out there. Oh, Josh Allen doesn't have accuracy, or is it just that he throws a million miles an hour and his receivers can't catch it? Who has the best and who has the most concerning accuracy among the quarterbacks in the 2023 draft class?
Oh, that one to me is C.J. Stroud, for sure. The best, yes. I think when you break it down, you know, intermediate, deep ball, short passing game, on the money, you know, touch throws, power throws, you know, people around me on my back leg still can put it in a really positive spot. That's where I look at him to be ultra accurate. Now, hey, listen, some nuance there. Bryce Young and those 5 to 12, 10 to 12, 15, 5 to 15 yard range, definitely in that class, right? Mm-hmm. Definitely. And maybe even has a little bit of an advantage in some of the quicker throws where I go, oh, well, maybe he is a hair more accurate than C.J. Stroud, but not by enough to where it makes up. And then, you know, where I've got into with Young, who's extremely accurate, it is some of the power throws when you got to put a little oomph into it that he can lose control of the football at times. So that's where I would go C.J. Stroud. Hooker and DTR are in that conversation. They are. Hooker, certainly, but not quite up there to that capacity. And DTR, same thing. It's close, but not quite in the young C.J. Stroud, and I give Stroud the ultimate accuracy, award there.
I'm getting the feeling as we go through this, it's going to become very obvious why you like C.J. Stroud so much. I mean, you did call him like a perfect prospect.
He's really good. Well, I think what I'll see, and then we'll see here, and again, I didn't map this out. I know what we got coming here, and I already know where I kind of got these guys as far as these departments are concerned, but I think what we're going to see here as we go is that, C.J. Stroud's not going to be low on any of them. Yeah. That's one thing to, watch as we go here.
Most concerning accuracy?
I think that if we're going to go there, I mean, you're going to Richardson and Levis, okay? And I would say Richardson probably as of right now, just because, there's and Levis isn't far behind. They're too talented to miss too many throws, to miss some of the throws we've talked about, right? And they both have some mechanical issues that I don't love. But I think that Richardson right now maybe has a little bit more meat left on the bone in that department.
Yeah. And as we go through these two, I mean, I think we want to emphasize again, these are the best of the best, right?
Exactly.
So if it's like most concerning, it's like most concerning of the best of the best. It's so and if we get to one of these categories where you think like, I'm not really that concerned about any of these top 5 quarterbacks in this category, I think you feel free to say that.
I will say in this category here, I'm not like, see, the thing that I will like about Levis and Richardson is that there is no, I'm not overly concerned about it.
Sure.
It's not as good as I would like, right? But they are both natural enough throwers to where I go, if they get around the right people and taught just one or two things, they're going to be able to fix these issues.
Right.
To where it doesn't I don't go, oh, wow. You got to drop them off the board here because it's such a big problem. It's not to that extent. Like you said, it's best of the best we're talking here.
And they both excel more in the arm strength category. So who has the best arm strength in your mind? I'm kind of curious to pick your brain about this, too, because there's arm strength and then there's like usable arm strength.
Right. That's right. Well, when you just go sheer power, you're going Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
Right? And then behind that, you're going Will Levis. The sheer power, yes. I mean, and then, Richardson wins, though. Richardson makes a few throws where you got to rewind the tape and go like, what? Did he really throw it that hard? Or did that ball really travel that way and get into the receiver's hands? Wow. Yeah. So that is where he does win that. Now, the nuance to that conversation, because like I said, I think if you took like Richardson's 5 best throws and Levis's 5 best throws, they might make us say wow more than anybody else in the top, 6 quarterbacks, right? But I think also, too, if we took their 20 hardest throws, right? The throws be like, oh, they threw it as hard as they could. 10 of them might be really good, but the other 10 might be off target. Where I can get into C.J. Stroud and go, yeah, it might not quite have the miles per hour, but on those 20 where he threw it as hard as he could, he was all over the strike zone, right? The worst one was like, oh, just a bit off the plate, could have been a strike, could have been a ball, right? I mean, that's where when he steps on the gas, that's where I do love him. He never loses control of the football, but just as far as pure power in his arm, no, he's not there with Richardson or Levis.
Concerned about the arm strength for any in your top 5?
No, I only get concerned a little with some of the things I talked about, I think, with a little with Bryce Young, that I like back shoulder balls, 15, 20 yards down the field. They're outside the numbers. We're by the sidelines, right? A lot of these guys can do that with ease. It's really one of the least impressive things he does. It's very rarely complete, right? Cover 2 hole shots, things like that. His ultimate elite arm power strength, it bothers me a little bit. I'm not going to say it's a concern.
Got it. How about the Mahomes magic?
Yeah.
The versatile arm angles, the sidearm, the over, the under the arm of outstretched defensive tackle.
Right. That's a good way to say it. The Mahomes factor. That's where Bryce Young wins. Bryce Young wins that for sure. That's where he's as slick as I've seen coming out of college with that stuff. Yes. Sidearms, cockeyed throws, leaning back and throwing sidearm, like I talked about the other day, like the quickness to get it out of his hands on a slant or a screen and just the way he can do it. And then also the element of like kind of running or moving and then just seeing a guy come open and going, well, I don't know where my feet are, but I'm just going to get it up and get it out and get it to the guy. He's magical that way. This is where the guy is like, I go into the natural, or the guy that can play the position. That's where he's just got a great feel, and you could tell he's thrown a lot of footballs and played a lot of backyard football in his life because of that.
Do you think that's a necessity now for quarterbacks to have? You do.
It's a necessity. It is. Now, there's some, hey, you get on a few teams, great protection, team's awesome. Okay, it's maybe not as necessary, A guy like Hendon Hooker, who's really big, maybe not as necessary because I'll throw over them. I got a high release, and I can do that maybe a little bit more. But as for kind of a broader statement, as, diverse as the offenses are with the quick throws, the screens, the RPOs, as good as the defensive linemen have gotten, you got to be able to change some release points and be able to throw the ball from some awkward positions this day in the NFL. There's too many games, even with good football teams, where I go, oh, look, this team's good. And the quarterback really only threw from a perfect pocket like 6 times out of 30 throws for the day. Everything else was, he had to shuffle here, move here, step up and kind of be on the run or whatever. And it's just more a part of the game than I think maybe we even all realize as we're watching on TV on Sundays.
So with the one guy you'd like to see it a little bit more, would it be Hendon Hooker, even though he's tall and doesn't need to maybe as much?
But that is a part of his game where, love to see a little more bounce in his feet, few more cockeyed, feet throws, sidearm, stuff like that. And even the quickness of his release at times. He can throw screens and he just stands up straight and he throws it. And it's not slow, but you go, you're a better athlete. You could do that quicker and sexier and get that ball out there with a little more pace and accuracy. And that's, again, where, coaching and being pushed and, no one's really ever taught me that. Like throwing screens to the receivers and bubble screens. Nobody ever taught me one thing about it until I got with Josh McDaniels in Denver in 2009.
Wow.
He taught me a little trick, and I went, oh, shit.
What was the trick?
Well, he basically, get the ball like you're you'd get the ball in the shotgun, and you'd get it, and you'd try to flip it around your hands and throw it out there, right? Like the traditional way.
Right.
He kind of taught, take it, get it into your gut a little bit, almost like a shortstop or a second baseman, and that'll just give you the rhythm to kind of sling it out there quick. And then as you kind of got that underneath, got used to that, then you can start to speed it up. And, okay, now I got it sidearm, and it was just one little coaching point that gave me a rhythm and a thought that I went, ooh, this makes it easier.
So it's almost like receiving the snap is part of your motion.
Exactly right.
Wow.
Or even almost like now what we see, almost the faking of the running back on the RPO. It's almost like that, except you're just not sticking it out there quite as long. But that gave you a little rhythm and timing with it that allowed you to, shoot it out there a little quicker. And nobody had ever taught me or said anything like that to me to that point.
I wonder how he learned that.
Well, I know. And that's, of course, when he starts off the statement of, this is what I did with Tom Brady, you're like, huh? Okay, yep, what? I'll write it down. Yeah, what did you do with him?
Yeah,
I'll do that. And hey, this is what we taught Tom. This is why he was so good at it. And you're like, oh, shit, okay, yeah, this works. I like this.
Tom was pretty good in the pocket, sensing pressure, moving around in the pocket. Of these quarterbacks, who's best at that?
Yeah, this is a tight one, and there's some nuance to this too. That's where this is where I'll say Levis is the worst in this department.
Okay,
all right. Now, even saying that he's the worst, though, if we were going to broaden this pocket thing out, if we added the element of we'll stand in there and throw and get his head knocked off. He's pretty high up in that department, right?
Yeah.
So that's where, even though he's the worst as far as moving in the pocket, sometimes he drifts into trouble, sometimes he fades away for no reason, stuff like that. Man, even though he's going to be the worst in that department, I'm going to tell you, as far as standing in there being tough like an NFL quarterback needs to be, he's really awesome in that department.
So depending on what we mean by this question, it changes your answer. Yes.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I think overall here, though, this is where I will go with C.J. Stroud again. I will. Now, it's close.
Because Bryce, that's one of the biggest things you see about Bryce is, man, he manipulates that pocket so well.
He does. He really does. And then his ability to make people miss and all that. But presence is also presence, pocket presence. And there are times that you've heard my concern where I go, things get a little tight, and his presence and my confidence in his presence to make that throw with people bearing down on him and things getting a little close quarters there, that's where I'm going to give C.J. Stroud the advantage because him and Hooker are unaffected by that. It's like there's so many throws where you go, they're fearless. I mean, they're about to get killed, and they don't even blink. They don't even know the guy's about to kill them, even though they do. So that's where I give it. And then there's a lot more of a subtle sliding and moving from them that, again, I think if we watched film together, you'd go, oh, damn, yeah, I watched that game on Saturday back in October. I didn't really realize how many times he made a little move or just slid in the right spot to make the right throw. So I'm going to go C.J. Stroud there. Young is too. You're right about that. Yeah, I told you my little concern.
Yeah.
But, yeah, him finding soft spots, sliding in the right area, like I talked about on Sunday, kind of running up into a hole. Oh, wait, the crosser's open and just letting it go, right? He's great at that stuff. He is. Stroud has a little of all of it. That's where I like Stroud in the pocket. Hooker is more of like, I'm just going to stand here and be tough. Richardson is good in the pocket. And to the point where, like I said on Monday, sometimes I go, no, get the out of the pocket and run. You're too good of a runner to just stand there and keep going, he'll come open, right? But he has a great feel for it, and he's unaffected. So it's a group that's all pretty good in that department. I wish there was a little more from Levis, but I'm going to give overall, the C.J. Stroud the advantage in that department.
And you have compared C.J. Stroud to Joe Burrow, who I think in your years of evaluating quarterbacks, is Joe Burrow number one as a decision maker in the pocket?
Yes.
Anticipation?
Definitely.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.